All right, welcome back. Miss Thư is going to do her speaking practice today. So let's start with part one first. Now, I cannot ask you about work because you haven't worked yet. Of course, I cannot ask you that. Right, let's try reading. Number 12, reading. 11, 12. Okay, 12, reading. So do you like to read books? What kind of books do you like to read?
Well, absolutely. I think I'm a big fan of reading, and I absolutely love reading books. And I often read like novels and books with long stories about.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can read a lot of types of books, but unfortunately now I do not have enough time. But still, it's still one of my hobbies.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Now, so what makes you so interested in those or that kind of books or books?
Well, I think it's the novels, the long books, books with a lot of characters and a lot of plot twists. I think it helps me to broaden my knowledge somehow, and I can totally involve in the involved in the story itself, and that makes me feel really interested in those
Yes.
kind of books about the characters and the plot. I love it.
Yes. All right. So, do you have many books at home, or do you even have like your own library at home or something?
Well, unfortunately, I do not have many books at home. I used to buy a lot of books, but now have lost, I have lost many of them.
Mhm.
Mostly now I will
Because
read
you will
books.
let your friends borrow them. Those things happen very much, very often because people
Yeah,
often have to
sometimes
borrow books.
I forget. Mm, So yeah, now if I want to read books, I will read them online rather than having a physical book.
Physical books. Not physical, okay? Physical books. Now, so do you often buy books?
Mm, Not really. I used to buy books a lot because it was one of my interests. But now I think it's not really necessary for me anymore because I think I can read books online, and it sometimes they are free and I do not have to pay much to read the books. So yeah, I do not often buy books.
You mean just go to the bookstores and read for free?
Yeah, like there are many apps on my phone and I can read them like free, I think.
I see. Now, do you like to read printed books or electronic books then? Why?
Um, Definitely electronic books, because I feel like it is much more convenient for me. I do not have to always carry a book around me. I just need my phone and I can read whatever kind of book I want. So yeah, I will definitely choose electronic books.
Hmm. So do you think Vietnamese people do enough reading? Why not? According to recent survey, it seems that a lot of Vietnamese they don't even read like two or one book per year, I think, which is alarming somehow. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Vietnamese people, I think they do not have enough, they do not do enough reading. Mm, I mean, many young people, especially young people, I think it's either that they do not have enough time to read, or they just find reading boring, and they would rather involve in other kinds of activities like watching television or surfing the Facebook or other platforms. So
So,
so well, I think it is not a good trend for people to follow, for Vietnamese people, because I think reading books broadens our knowledge really much.
yes, of course, but the question concerned, do you think Vietnamese people do enough reading? So you should focus on the fact that not so many people are reading. So there should be ways to encourage people to read more, you know. You should not focus on the benefits of reading, I think. Cái câu nó tập trung vào cái chuyện là người Việt có đọc đủ nhiều không? Có đọc sách đủ không? Có đọc sách nhiều hay không? Chứ không phải là tập trung vào cái lợi ích của việc đọc sách nha. Be careful with this one. Now, so in your opinion, what is the best place to read then?
Well, I think that for me, the best place to read is somewhere quiet. Maybe your room, your house, or in a quiet coffee shop that
Mm,
you often visit. Because I think reading it requires great concentration, and quiet places, they can definitely provide you that. Because I think I can concentrate much better when
mhm.
I read in quiet places. So I think it's the best place for me.
I see. So what kind of people like reading and what kind of people do not? What do you think?
Well, I think it depends on each individual. Mm, Uh, Nowadays, I think many young people, I think the majority of young people, they do not read as much as the older generations,
Mm,
because they have a lot more interesting activities to do
mhm,
rather than just sit and read books. And because young people are more energetic, and they want to do something that is active, and like they want to release
mhm,
their energy.
mhm,
So I think young people, they will not like to read much.
mm,
And yeah, and on the other hand, I think older people would like to read more, because I think it has been a habit of them since they were young. Because in the past, they didn't have much, they didn't have many recreational activities to do. So I
mm,
think they would mostly rely on reading to entertain themselves. And I think they have followed this habit since. And yeah, I think that's old people who like to read more than the young people.
I see. The young people these days, they read, they just watch video, TikTok videos, and a lot of videos on social media mostly. But I still find that a large number of people still prefer reading. You, for example, you are still in high school and you
Yeah.
still prefer reading, I think. So But still, yes, that's correct. I think that people of Vietnam need to be encouraged to keep on reading, reading, and reading more. There should be much more activities like that, you know, because reading is important for people to learn new things. And I think it's a vital skill. Should be highly encouraged. So basically, let's go to singing now. So do you like to sing?
Yeah, absolutely. I love to sing. Despite the fact that I think I do not sing like well, but I think I have some kind of talent for it.
Mm.
So yeah, I think maybe in the future I will take some music classes to
Mm.
learn to sing better.
So do you enjoy listening to people singing, like karaoke, for example?
Well, I think it depends on who sings. Mm, For example, when I listen to famous singers singing, I really enjoy that because I can feel the emotion, the feelings that they pour into the song, and it conveys some kind of message, and it's really relaxing for me. However, listening to people singing karaoke, well, it I do not really enjoy that because they are like amateur singers and I think they sing really badly and
Ugh, they sing
it's
badly and they
better.
often sing, you know, it's like showing off their talent, but they are talentless
Yeah, I think you just like scream and not really sing. It's
to
pretty
show
annoying.
off their talent. But the problem is they are talentless. They don't have any talent. Anyway, so what do you often sing about?
Well, I think I sing about love the most. I mean, there are many songs about love. So, and I think they are somehow really cute and they just the lyrics, the beat, the rhythm, they all match my energy and they all upbeat songs somehow. And I think I like to sing about those kind of songs the most.
Hmm. So is it difficult to sing well, do you think?
Definitely, I think it is difficult to sing well.
There you need vocal
Actually,
lesson, right?
yeah, actually, there are many people were born to, who were born and who already have like innate gifts about singing, and they can sing well since they were a child. And I think for those people, I think it's not really difficult for them to sing well. However, they still need to take vocal classes to improve their singing. But there are many people who do not have the talent for singing. And I think no matter how hard they try to sing well, they just cannot. So, yeah, it depends on each person.
Yes. Okay. So, why do people sing? Is there a reason behind that? What do you think? Is it to express feelings that words cannot convey or something like that?
Uh, well,
To
I
express
think,
feelings.
yeah, I think people sing to express their feelings that words cannot convey. And when singing, they I think they can relieve stress and
Relieve stress and also to be able to express themselves, to feel better for themselves, right?
yeah.
Now, so what do you think about karaoke singing? Is it a good thing? Was it a good invention at all? You know, it was invented by a Japanese man. He's old now, but it was invented in the 1970s, 1980s. and many people around the world now enjoy his invention. But it also is a source of annoyance, especially if you live with neighbors who love singing, you know.
Yeah.
It's also a source of annoyance, một cái nguồn cơn của sự bực mình, you know. Okay, so what do you think about karaoke singing?
Well, I think karaoke singing, I think it can help to entertain the people who sing, but sometimes it annoys the people around that person who sings. For example, when people karaoke, well, they will feel a lot better. They can sing whatever they want and express their feelings through the songs that they sing. And I think it's kind of a good way to relax, to entertain yourself. However, there are many people who karaoke and the neighbors get extremely annoyed because of the noisy sounds and the terrible singing of those people. And I think sometimes it even causes many conflicts between neighbors about singing, karaoke singing. So I think it's both a good thing but not a good thing as well.
I see. Okay, about singing, do you think school teachers should teach singing? Like teaching people how to stay, how to basically sing in tune, not out of tune, you know? Đừng có bị hát lạc giọng. Teaching people how to sing out of tune, sing in tune and not out of tune. So basically, when they want to sing karaoke, everyone will not be so annoyed, you know. So do you think school teachers should teach singing?
Well, I think that school teachers they should teach singing in an appropriate way for for many students. Uh, Singing can be a good way to express their feelings rather than by words. And when they sing, they can feel a sense of relaxation after hours of studying.
Mm.
And yeah, to know about singing, I think it brings about a lot of benefits as you can sing in tune and you can enjoy your singing without many people criticizing it. And I think it's a good thing. Yeah.
When someone criticizes singer, they will stop. Normally, it happens that way, you know.
Yeah.
Now, so do you want to be a singer, or what kind of music do you like to sing?
Actually, although I think I sing in an acceptable way, I think I do not want to be a singer at all. Because, well, I think if I become a singer, I think I will have to face popularity, face publicity, and I think I'm too shy for it. I think I'm not ready to be a singer and face opinions of other people about my singing. I just want to sing for myself to entertain, to meet my own demands about singing. However, I think I like to sing pop songs. They, I think I can easily vibe with those kind of music, and I think some songs from pop are pretty easy for me to learn to sing. So I think I really like to sing pop music.
So there are a lot of singing competition, game shows, and other programs in Vietnam that they involve singing in there. So what do you think of singing competitions? Is it a good idea to have them? Does it benefit the society or the people in any way?
Well, I think that singing competitions do benefit society and also the people involved in that in the competitions as well. I think to organize a singing competition, they I think they have to put a lot of effort into those. And when there are they
Compet
sing,
competitors.
competitors, and they sing, and they can show off their talents to many people. And I think some people may even gain popularity through the competitions, and then it helps them to thrive in their future career if they want to be a singer. And also, like singing competitions can help to entertain society. Many people love to hear people singing, and those competitions, I think they can definitely help people to experience that beautiful singing of many talented people. So I think it does benefit society.
Well, as long as you don't overdo it, you know. Basically, people in Vietnam, they love singing, yeah. But the problem is there are other forms of arts that they don't receive enough attention, you know. Like, for example, piano art or guitar or other kind of talent shows, you know, other kind of talents. They also deserve some kind of recognition, you know. But the problem is the people in Vietnam, they kind of abuse singing, I think. All right, so let's go to part 2 and part 3 now. We've done a lot. So let's try 23. Part 2 and part 3. Describe an occasion when you were not allowed to use your mobile phone. Did we do this one before?
No, we
Let me
didn't.
know. If there's something that we have done, you should let me know because sometimes I forgot to record it on my notebook, you know.
Yeah.
All right, so you should say when it was, where it was, and why you were not allowed to use it. And explain how you felt about not using it, you know. Okay, let's try to not give the same examples of going to the exam room. You know, a lot of people, they just give me the same exact example of going to exam room and they are not allowed to use, they were not allowed to use mobile phone, you know. Try to give me another example. Something like when they were in a concert, like a formal music concert, for example, and then the people ask you to turn off your phone, or maybe when they were on the airplane or something, you know. Just don't always think about going to exam and you have to turn off your mobile phone, you know. Try to be creative, you know. Cho mấy cái ví dụ khác thì tại sao mấy bạn nào qua cái chủ đề này cũng nói về chuyện đi thi không được cầm điện thoại di động? Tại sao không nói về những chuyện khác, ví dụ như là đi concert trịnh trọng người ta kêu tắt máy đi chẳng hạn, hoặc là lên máy bay chẳng hạn, something like that. Okay, let's go to part 3 phone here. How do young and old people use mobile phones differently? So you can talk about like how many hours they use them. And normally younger people would prefer texting, you know, instead of calling, but older people, they just kind of abuse, like they kind of abuse the calling function on mobile phones, I think. Partly because they are so lazy to type. The second thing is they want a quick and they will want to listen to the voice of the person who they are going to communicate with. Muốn nghe cái giọng của cái người mà họ muốn giao tiếp với. Well, that's the old people. And I always have to tell people to text me because I don't want to receive calls all the time. It's alarmingly stressful for me. For me, it's alarmingly stressful. Nó căng thẳng một cái đáng báo động luôn á. Đối với lại John là như vậy. Cho nên là text đi, đừng có gọi. I mean, maybe I'm still young. Anyway, think about the number of hours people use mobile phones and what for, what purposes. Is it to be on social media? You know, when the old people know how to use social media, they are even more addicted to it than the younger people, you know. Người già cứ nói anti chống xài điện thoại hoài, nhưng một khi bị nghiện đi, họ còn nghiện còn dã man hơn người trẻ. Well, so that's just my experience with some people I know. Okay, think about that. Now, what positive and negative impact do mobile phones have on friendship? I think you know the answer for this. Remember, it doesn't always negative impact on friendship, you know. There can be something positive as well. Like, for example, you can use mobile phones to take pictures for your friends. You can use your phones to to record things for your friends, and they will love it. That's good for friendship, yes. But it's bad if you use it for a bad purpose. Like, for example, some people they like to capture the phone screen, chụp màn hình, to use them as evidence, you know, dường như bằng chứng. To use them as evidence, and then to use them to expose people, bóc phốt người khác. You know, that is of course bad, and that's very common online these days, especially in Asia, I think. So you have to think about the positive and negative impact mobile phones can have on friendship. Some people, they spend too much time on their phones and they don't want to meet people, you know. That could negatively affect their friendship, of course. Now, next one. Is it a waste of time to take pictures with mobile phones? So think about this question. They say that a lot of people, every day they take like 50, 100 pictures with mobile phone, and they post things online a lot. Do you think it's a waste of time? Okay, you have to think about that. Like, why do they do that? And not just young people do that, okay? I have personally seen people who are 60 years old and plus, they take so many pictures and they just keep posting online a lot, you know. I have personally seen those cases. Now, do you think it's necessary to have laws on the use of mobile phones? Like what laws? To avoid people from, to prevent people from body shaming people, to prevent cyber bullying, chống chuyện bắt nạt trên mạng và học nhục mạ cơ thể, there should be laws to protect the privacy of people online, something like that, and laws to restrict screen time to prevent addiction, you know, giảm thời gian trên màn hình để mà tránh nghiện ngập. Well, should there be any laws on the use mobile phone that way? And what do you think? Would it help or would it harm? All right, some time to think. All right, let's continue now. Okay, let's describe an occasion when you were not allowed to use your mobile phone, please.
So I'm going to talk about my family meeting. It's an occasion when I was not allowed to use my phone. Well, it happened a few months ago. It was a meeting that required all adults of my family. And actually, it was only restricted to adults, but I was becoming older soon, so I was allowed to attend it. And in that meeting, I was not allowed to use my mobile phone. Instead, I just sat and listened to people's stories,
Yes.
to people's stories, and about their complaints about their life, about the troubles of our family that we needed to deal with. And I wasn't allowed to use because they were really important matters that required much concentration. And it was the first time that I didn't allow to use my phone that much time. It took about 2 or more than 2 hours to listen to it, just sit and listen and did nothing. And actually, I felt a little upset and frustrated about not using my phone because I think I and my phone were inseparable and
Inseparable, right?
inseparable, yeah. And when it was taken away from me, I was feeling a bit sad and disappointed, and I didn't know what to do. But yeah, I think it was kind of an experience for me to not have my phone around me.
I see. So how do young and old people use mobile phones differently then?
Well, the difference between young and old people using mobile phones can be divided in many factors. Uh, it they can be about the hours they spend on their phones, or about the purposes they use their phone, or the content. For example, about the hours, I think young people, they tend to use their phones much more than the older ones. And I think they spend and I think it's because they have to use their phone for their work or their study,
For
or
various
something.
purposes, including working and study, right?
Yeah, so young people, they rely much on their phones to work, to study, and sometimes they also use their phone to watch videos or entertain themselves. And it is the opposite for old people. However, I think that there are also some old people use mobile phones much more than young people, as they have already retired and they have much more time to on their phone rather than some young people. But I think it's just a small proportion of old people using phones more than the young people. And also, I think differences can be about the purposes they use their phone for. Young people, they often use their phone for, as I said before, they often use it for work or study or watching videos. On the contrary, old people prefer to read news or to call their relatives or their friends to chat for hours about their life.
Yes,
And the last one, I think, the last difference I think do exist is about the content. The young people, I think they will use mobile phones to watch a various types of content than old people. They will probably use Facebook, use a lot of platforms, uh, and meanwhile, old people just use simple apps that
simple
they,
apps such as
such as apps for news or for apps for texting, apps for calling. I think because I think they can only adapt to those apps. I think they do not need to learn much, and they do not need to use phones as much as young people. So they just use simple platforms. So I think those are the differences.
I see. Now, so what positive and negative impact do mobile phones have on friendship then? What do you think?
Well, about the positive impact, I think mobile phones play an important role in uh, keeping in keeping in contact
In
with
keeping people
friends.
contacting each other to
Yeah,
improve communication, right?
yes, because through mobile phones, people can text, can call their friends, even are when they are close or even when they are far away from each other. And I think it definitely boosts their uh, friendship and helps to connect people to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, on the other hand, the negative impacts of mobile phones on friendship are that people they may rely much on their phone, and sometimes they are too lazy to meet their friends
Uh-huh.
in person. Although they can text and they can call their friends, but I think that when we meet someone in person, definitely better than when you just text them online. Uh, and I think if people they depend too much on mobile phones to contact their friends,
Mm-hmm.
I think it will degrade the quality of the friendship, and sometimes it even pushes people away from each other.
I
And
see. Anything else?
well, the and another negative impact I think is that sometimes people they text their friends and talk about many things, and if those messages get leaked, I think the friendship will not be on good terms anymore. So
Hmm. It's
yeah,
called ghosting, you know?
yeah.
Online is called ghosting. Now, so is it a waste of time to take pictures with mobile phones? You know, a lot of people they just keep posting thousands of videos in a week, something like that. What do you think about
Well,
that?
in my opinion, I think that taking pictures with mobile phones may not be a waste of time if we use it in a suitable and appropriate way. For example, mm, taking pictures with mobile phones can help people to capture the um, beautiful moments of their life, about the sceneries about the places that they have been, and this can help them to recall the memories if they want to uh, look back on their best days.
Mm-hmm.
I think can, can be taking pictures. It helps people to store their uh, favorite moments. However, if you take too many pictures with your mobile phones, if you spend every minute of your life just taking pictures, I think people may forget to experience the scenes, or if they take pictures of the landscape, I think if they take too many pictures with about the landscapes, I think people will forget to enjoy it in person. They just try their best to capture it in their phones,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's not. I think it's if we do that, it will be a waste of time, and because we take time traveling there and just see the sceneries in pictures, and I think that's not a good idea.
Okay, so do you think it's necessary to have laws on the use of mobile phones? The more we live, the more we realize that there are a lot of problems with the online world these days, you know? So do you think it's necessary to have laws on the use of mobile phones?
Definitely, I think it is um, vital to have laws on the use of mobile phones. Despite the fact that uh, uh, mobile phones can bring about a lot of benefits. It they can cause a lot of troubles. Uh, for example, there are many cases of people having their privacy invaded by hackers, and sometimes those private information getting leaked can
Getting
ruin
leaked
someone's
online, yeah.
life. Yeah, and also there are many cases of body shaming or cyberbullying when people
Mhm.
use mobile phones, and these bad behaviors can definitely harm someone's life, and it can lead.
These are, I call them malicious behavior. Những hành vi mà độc hại, những hành vi mà cố tình ác độc nó gây hại người á. Malicious behaviors. Those are I called, yeah. And also there's something a lot of people can badmouth the others online, and they can defame, dìm hàng ai đó. They can defame others and then make up a lot of stories in order to do so. You know, it happens a lot in Vietnam. Online space is just crazy. But because of that, there's something called fact check. They will check the facts, and then if someone reported, they will keep checking the facts. And if you are caught like if you're caught spreading fake news or false information about the others, you will have to face the consequence. It's like that. So there are laws on the use of mobile phone this way. You can think about the laws in China, for example. It's very strict law. You are not allowed to say anything wrong or to spread any news about what the government is doing. You know, you're not even allowed to discuss anything that the government is doing. But that is China. Vietnam is a bit different. People keep talking about a lot of things, you know. So what do you think about that?
Mm, well, yeah, I think laws can be really beneficial to the users of mobile phones, as I think it gives them a sense of security, of safety when they use their mobile phones, and they do not have the fear of getting bullied or having stories made up about them,
Mm-hmm.
because those kind of fake information can defame people, and there are some people who even suffer from mental issues from
Of
those.
course, those things happen a lot in South Korea. The story of celebrities, they got defamed, and then a lot of people online they talk bad about them. They
Yeah,
got so depressed and then they committed suicide, you know.
yeah, there are like many cases of that.
Not that many, but when it happened, it's very tragic, you know. Cực kỳ tragic. Bi kịch lắm luôn á. It's very tragic when it happens. Now, that's 23. Okay, so let's move on. Let's try 24. Describe an argument two of your friends had. Two of your friends, not you, okay? Two of your friends had. You should say when it happened, what it was about, how it was solved, and explain how you felt about it. An argument about something, like for example, people often argue about social relationship, like love problems, something like that, you know, or people argue about how they should do something, you know, like for example, if you work in a team, for example, and people argue about how the team should carry out the teamwork, something like that. Now, what do family members usually have arguments about? Oh, well, of course you know how it is. Argument about spending. Argument about, what else? About housework, household chores, if you have to ask me. Who will clean the dishes? Who will wash the dishes? Who will have to mop the floor, clean or wipe the floor, something like that? Who will have to take care of the laundry, something like that? That's the most common. And also you have arguments about what to spend money on, what to spend on, of course. That's very common. They usually have arguments, of course, about relationships, like friendships, friends, lovers, something like that, you know. But most of the time, I think when the two personality clash, when the two personalities clash, that's when they argue, of course. All right, is it easier to have arguments with family or with friends? Well, one thing for sure, if you have argument with family, you cannot ghost them. You cannot really, how can I say, let's not use the word ghost, okay? When you have argument with family, they're still family. You cannot like cut all the connections, cut all the communication with them that easily. But with friends, you can. If you have argument with friends, sometimes they no longer your friends. You don't want to meet them anymore. But with families, very sadly, you still have to meet them somehow, you know. But the question say, is it easier? Which one is easier? Which one is easier? Is it to have argument with friends or with family? You have to discuss that, okay? It depends, I think. I think people tend to keep face, giữ thể diện. People tend to keep face with people out there, but with family, they don't have to keep face at all. So they can just argue a lot with their family, I think, without any consequences, without any real consequences, you know. Cứ cãi nhau thoải mái, gia đình không có hậu quả gì hết. Nhưng mình cãi nhau người ngoài là có hậu quả. Well, that's what I think. And because of that, people are more careful when they communicate with the other people. They like to keep face more. They don't argue that much, you know. That's what I think. But it also depends on the cases. Some people, they just argue with everyone, you know. Or someone, they just, there are people who prefer to keep the peace and harmony. So of course, there are people who prefer to keep the peace and harmony. I personally knew a few, but some people, they just argue with everyone they know. Doesn't matter family or friends, I think. So what are the best ways to avoid arguments? Are there any best ways? So when people are not calm, I would suggest that they should avoid each other and wait until they become calmer so they can discuss, not argue. That's what I think it's one of a good way. Because if people are not calm and they still keep arguing, the conversation is not going to go anywhere, you know. Cứ tranh luận mãi, cuối cùng trong cái trạng thái mà đứa nào cũng muốn thắng thì cuộc đàm thoại nó đi đâu đó. The conversations not going anywhere, and worse, Tệ hơn thì sao? Worse, it can make people hate each other and not wanting to talk to each other. You know? And also think about avoiding arguments. Whenever there are humans, there will be arguments. Chỗ nào có người là sẽ có tranh luận thôi. It's hard to avoid arguments somehow. Anyway, you think about this question. What causes argument between countries? This is a hard one. So think about countries. It's very similar to the relationship between people and people, you know, but now it's between countries. Think about countries that share the same border. Những đất nước mà nó chia sẻ cùng cái đường biên giới á. So of course, like for example, between China and Vietnam, there's a lot of argument. Like who owns, like for example, who owns those islands, for example? Ai sở hữu những hòn đảo đó? Yeah, well, this is one often happens. Or who has the right to harvest the oil or the resources? You know, resources is of course something that countries often argue about a lot. And it can lead to conflicts and war. So often, of course, think also about like the difference in ideology. Ideology. Nghĩa là sự khác biệt về cái ý thức hệ, tư tưởng. Think about the difference in ideology. So of course, people, they think differently, you know. Like for example, between a communist country, between let's say a Muslim country, một đất nước theo đạo Hồi chẳng hạn, and a Western country, of course, they think very differently about many issues. Like for example, how their citizens should be treated, how women should be treated. Đối xử với phụ nữ thế nào, đối xử với lại cư dân, công dân thế nào. It's very different between countries. So it can cause argument. Like for example, when Europe allow a lot of immigrants from Muslim countries into their own country, you know, there are cases of rapes, những vụ hiếp dâm. It happened because why? Those immigrants from Muslim country, a lot of them, they think that Western women dressing very they're dressing in a way that show their body a lot. It's like inviting the rapers to rape them. It's like that. So those Muslim immigrants, they think that they are not guilty, they are innocent or not guilty, and they blame the victims, giống như kiểu mà luôn luôn đổ lỗi nạn nhân nữa. Well, it's because in their country, women are not allowed to dress like Western women, of course. So it's the difference that can cause a lot of argument between countries, between government, you know. And right now, it's a lot of things going on too. Of course, people in a Western country and they don't agree with those behavior. Those are crimes, you know. Đó là những cái tội mà bất hợp pháp mà. Of course, those are crimes that can cause a lot of arguments. Think also about the policy, chính sách nữa nha. Between policy of export and import, xuất nhập khẩu. Like for example, if a country like Vietnam, we export a lot of rice, chúng ta xuất khẩu rất là nhiều gạo đi, but then suddenly other country around us, they stop importing rice from Vietnam, then it can make our farmers go bankrupt, you know, có thể làm những cái người mà nông dân chúng ta phá sản, đúng không đâu? They can make our farmers go bankrupt because the rice, you have to find a place to use them, right? To sell them. But now nobody is buying them. So as a result, the farmers they have to pay debts, you know. Những người nông dân phải trả nợ chứ, tiền đâu trả nợ. Then now there's no money to pay debts, and of course they go bankrupt, and that can cause a lot of argument between the government of countries too. Those things happens more than you think, you know. Think about the policy, you know. And also think about, you know, Singapore is actually a very strict country with laws against drug. Like they have laws against drugs. Có những cái luật mà chống lại ma túy. They say that if you have more than 10 grams of any drugs, the death penalty awaits you. Án tử hình. Trên 10 gram bất kỳ ma túy nào là án tử hình. Bên Singapore nó vậy á. That's how Singapore is. And of course, some Vietnamese citizens, they got caught in that system, you know, and then it's almost impossible for the Vietnamese government to save them, or it's nearly impossible for some other countries like American government to save them, you know, and that result in a lot of public outrage. Sự phẫn nộ quần chúng. It's a result of a lot of public outrage, and they demand governments to do something about it, you know, and that caused a lot of argument. You have to think about those cases too. Or there are cases of Vietnamese people going to Japan and they committed a crime. They committed a crime of shoplifting. Tội ăn cắp vặt trong siêu thị. They committed shoplifting, and of course they have to go to the police, you know, and they are prosecuted. Bị luận tội. Of course, the Vietnamese government will have to do something to save those people, you know, but the Japanese government doesn't think so. It can cause conflict when the two countries have to deal with each other, you know, that way. All right, think about this one. Okay, Mr. Please describe an argument two of your friends had. Let's do this one first.
So I'm going to talk about a time when we had to do a presentation and in a group, and two of my friends argued with each other. Well, it was a presentation about history, and we had to do it, and the teacher divided us in groups. And in the presentation, two of my friends, they argued about the methods of representing. One person argued that we needed a mini game before our presentation, while the other said that we need to have a review rather than a mini game before that. And they both fought really fiercely about that. And it got so intense that the other members of our group had to seek the help of our teacher. And then in the end, the teacher decided that we could do both a mini game and a review in our presentation, so that they wouldn't fight anymore. And about this argument, I thought it was such a waste of time, and it caused annoyance and also a delay in our process of the presentation. They both have really strong personalities, and no one bothered to listen to each other, and it caused a lot of trouble to the whole group, not just them. So I think this is a really unpleasant argument of my two friends that I witnessed just recently.
I see. Right. So what do family members usually have arguments about?
Well, depending on many different families, the members usually have different arguments about many things of in their daily life. Mm, they can be about their expenditure, about the
Expenditures,
household,
right?
yeah, about
Expenditures.
expenditures, or the housework, or about their children, uh, children's academic results. Mm, But I think the most common is about the expenditure of families, about what they should spend on, or whether they should buy this item or not, or whether it is worth spending money on. And because each individual, each member in the family has different way of thinking, and they have different opinions about the items that they want to buy, and sometimes sometimes when they decide to buy something, the other members may not agree with that idea, and then they can have conflicts about that matter. And also, family members, they also have arguments about housework, about doing house chores. People, they argued about who should do the washing, or who should clean the house. And I think this can also be a factor causing the arguments among family members. And the last thing that I think that family members usually have arguments about is between parents and children about their studying, their academic results. Sometimes the children may not live up to the parents' expectations about their scores at school, and the parents may get annoyed by their results, and
Mm.
sometimes they even scold the children for not being hardworking enough, and this can cause a lot of distress in the family.
And so much distress, of course. Distress often happens. Okay, so is it easier to have arguments with family or with friends then?
Well, actually, in my opinion, I think it depends on each person. Uh, for example, many people, they feel that they are more likely to have arguments with family rather than with their friends, because in their subconscious mind they feel that family is a strong bond, and no matter how many times they argue with the family, there will be no consequences, and they will not be abandoned, and the family members will always um, like put up with their behaviors no matter what.
Yes.
So they will argue with their family more than their friends. However, there are many people who have many arguments with friends rather than with their family, because they have a strong connection with their family, and all the family members understand, empathize, and um, care for each other. And uh, meanwhile, with friends, they have to expose to a
Be
large
exposed
number
to
of
it. They have
different
to be exposed
personalities.
to many different. They have to be exposed to different.
Yeah, they have to be exposed to different personalities, and sometimes they are not compatible with their own. So it's easy it's easier for them to like argue with their friends about even some trivial matters of life. So yeah, I think whether it is easier to have arguments with family or with friends depends greatly on each individual.
I see. Now, so what are the best ways to avoid arguments then?
Well, I think the best way to avoid arguments, in my opinion, is that
Argument.
arguments, arguments, is that people have to when people are angry, they have to sit down and try to collect themselves and become calmer before trying to defend their opinions.
Yes.
As people have different personalities and different mindsets and different viewpoints about many aspects of life, and it's hard to and it's really easy to have arguments about many things. And when people have arguments, it is when that it is when they are really angry. They can be really impulsive, and they can act or behave in a way that they do not expect themselves to, and this can cause a lot of consequences for the relationship between people, and sometimes it can cause conflicts or fights between people. So I think they should sit down and collect themselves. They have to um, think and they have to think and consider each other's viewpoints, whether their opinions are good or the other ones are better. They need to be really calm and they need to be really calm and thoughtful. And also, I think another way to avoid arguments is that they can seek other people's opinions about the arguments, because other people, they do not play any part in the arguments, and I think they will have a more subjective viewpoint about the arguments, and as a result, I think they can give better advice to uh, the people who argue with each other, and they can also encourage harmony and peace with it's among those people. So I think these are the two ways to avoid arguments.
Okay, I see. So, what are the best ways to avoid arguments? I mean, sorry, I should ask you the last question. What causes argument between countries then? Big question
Uh,
and a hard one. Of course, you should consider what I told you before.
yeah, I think between countries there are many factors that can cause arguments. For example, uh, there are many countries which share the same border, and there are many arguments about who own the land, or um, about who own the land, and there are many conflicts between countries about this matter, and just uh, and sometimes they even have war against each other
Of
about.
course, wars always happen over
Yeah.
resources and something like that, you know?
And also, I think there can be arguments about diplomacy.
Of course, diplomacy, very good. Diplomacy between a country, like for example, if two countries don't get along well, it's because their diplomacy doesn't work, you know, and maybe their ambassador, đại sứ, if their ambassador doesn't do their job very well, the two countries will suffer. And the two countries might even go to war if the diplomacy failed. Nếu mà ngoại giao mà fail một cái là biết ngay. Okay, so anything else? Any other ways?
I think there between countries there are also arguments about military. For example, there is a case between North Korea and South Korea.
Very
Yeah,
difficult.
and North Korea they launched a rocket, and I think it affected South Korea in some way. And these two nations have been in war for a long time, and
I think they stopped. I think they made peace with each other a few years ago. Did you notice that news? No.
Really,
It was thanks to President. Donald Trump that the two Korea finally achieved some peace. You know, they signed and declared that the war's over. I think.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I thought they were still in war.
Well, that's before President Trump was in power, but now it seems that the two Koreas at war again, thanks to Biden. You know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it's good enough for this topic. All right, it's 24. Remember that argument between countries, diplomacy, and all these politic things, they affect us. They can affect us directly or indirectly, you know. Like for example, because of Ukraine war, you know, chiến tranh ở bên Ukraine và Nga, between the war between Ukraine and Russia. It's so far away from Vietnam, right? But Vietnam is still negatively affected somehow, you know.
Yeah.
Our economy is negatively affected by that war, even though indirectly. Cái nền kinh tế Việt Nam thực sự bị ảnh hưởng một cách gián tiếp bởi cuộc chiến ở Ukraine và Nga nha. So it's still being affected somehow. So don't think that if there's a war in other country, we won't be affected. Of course we will be affected because we are in a highly globalized world, một thế giới toàn cầu hóa cao. We're in a highly globalized world. Everything happens, it will affect the whole globe. It will affect the whole world somehow, you know? It will affect the whole world somehow. Anyway, all right, so let's do 25 now. Describe a plan in life not related to work or study. Remember, not with work, not with study. It can be a plan to get married, a plan to go abroad for vacation, a plan for... Did we do this one before?
Yeah, we have.
Okay, we did. Of course we did. Okay, so maybe let me move on. 32. Okay, let's do 32 then. Describe a skill that you think you can teach other people. You should say what it is, who you can teach, how you can teach others, and explain how you feel about teaching others. If you don't know, just make up a story, like some skills, you know, không biết được rõ cái skill nào mình hơi dạy được thì cứ xạo ra một câu chuyện chẳng hạn. Like explain how you feel about teaching others. Okay, part 3 of teaching and learning. You know, teaching is not an easy job. It requires a lot of patience. It requires good training. It requires you to really, really have passion in teaching to stay in the same job, you know. And you have part 3 of teaching and learning. Should teachers make jokes or be funny when they teach? Like, think about that. Some teachers, they make jokes a lot, but what for? Is it to help the class be more alive, to help people to stay focused on what they're doing, to not be sleepy or something like that? And what do you think? Should they do that all the time? Or be funny when they teach? What quality should teachers have and why? I think you know very well this one. Which do you think is more important, practical skills or academic skills? You can give some examples, Not all the time practical skills are more important than academic skill, It depends. Nó còn tùy từ trường hợp nha, không phải lúc nào practical skill cũng ổn hơn, cũng tốt hơn là academic skills đâu nha. Okay, so it depends on the cases. Like, give some examples of different jobs, Like, for example, if you're in research, of course, academic skills are much more important than practical skills in that era. Nếu mình làm nghiên cứu và mình phải viết lách nhiều á, thì academic skills sẽ rất quan trọng. But if you do if you work and you use that skill in a practical manner, and of course, practical skills are more important. Nếu mình làm việc mà mình phải sử dụng những kỹ năng mà thực tế nhiều thì là kỹ năng thực tế nó sẽ quan trọng. Of course. Think about the jobs. Now, what age group is the best at learning new things and why? Nhóm tuổi nào là tuyệt vời nhất ở học những thứ mới, tại sao? Okay, not all the time it's children. Remember that some skills require other skills. It's called a prerequisite. Prerequisite. It's called nó giống như là trước khi em học môn B em phải bắt đầu học môn A, nó gọi là gì ta? Điều kiện để được học một cái gì đó là phải hoàn thành cái gì đó trước đó mới được học. Tức là gọi là prerequisite. It's like you are required to do something before you do another thing. Mình được yêu cầu là phải hoàn thành cái gì đó trước rồi mới được làm cái kia đó, chẳng hạn prerequisite. So think about that. Like some skills, it requires certain age to start, but not younger. Một số kỹ năng bắt buộc phải có độ tuổi thích hợp mới học được nha, chứ không phải là tuổi nào học được đâu. And think about the fact that you have to acquire certain knowledge and skills in order to learn something else. So that's why if you're an adult, it's actually good at learning new things too. For children, they may be faster at learning languages, for example, or arts or math, something like that. But not all the time, children are the best at learning new things. Mình phải tách ra thành nhiều trường hợp như vậy. Okay, so let's do 32. You have some time, think now. Okay, please describe a skill that you think you can teach other people.
So I'm going to talk about cooking, a skill that I'm really confident in teaching
Picking?
others.
What do you mean? Picking?
Cooking.
Cooking. I see.
So my passion for cooking started when I was really young, and I just made my own dish in a very different way from my mother. And over the years, I have improved the skill of mine through a lot of practice. And I think I can teach a lot of people, my friends, and also my family as well. I can teach the basics of cooking, including how to choose fresh ingredients or how to mix the materials with each other. Also, I can help people to create their own dish by adding the adequate amount of additives in their own way or how they want to. Additionally, I think I can also teach people to decorate their dish after finishing cooking with herbs or with different materials. And I feel that teaching others about cooking, it helps me to bring joy to other people as well as bring joy to myself, as I can see the pleasure in people's eyes when they can cook something delicious for themselves and for their beloved ones.
Mm-hmm.
And also when teach people, I can also experience many different ways of cooking of others, and I think it's also a way of learning for me. And I think cooking is a really essential an essential skill for anyone to learn. So yeah, I think it's really cooking is a skill that I really think I can teach people very well.
I see. So, should teachers make jokes or be funny when they teach? What do you think?
Well, definitely, I think that teachers should make jokes and be funny when they teach, but only in an adequate way, or in a,
They should do it in moderation, right?
yeah,
Làm vừa
not too
vừa
much.
thôi, làm vừa phải thôi. They should do it in moderation, right?
Mm, For example, when the class is too tired or when no one wants to raise their hands to answer, I think that's when teachers should make jokes about something else rather than the subject. And they should, and I think this will help the students to be more energetic. It will make them laugh, and I think it can it can boost their mood throughout the lesson. And also, there are many jokes that can be made about the subjects. Um, Teachers can make up a lot of jokes about his or her own subject, and it it not only helps the students to become more uh, to become more active and more relaxed through during the class, but it can also helps them to remember the information of the subject better when rather than they just merely sit and listen to the subject to the information in a traditional way. So I
Mhm.
think, yeah, it is a good thing that teachers make jokes and be funny when they teach in moderation.
I see. Hmm. So, just a moment, please. I'm coughing, you see. All right. So, what qualities should teachers have and why? What do you think?
Well, I think to be teachers, there are a lot of qualities that they need. For example, I think the most important thing is that you have to be patient and determined, because teaching others can be really annoying and takes a lot of time to uh, get the ideas across to their students. And there are many students who cannot understand the subject immediately, and they will need a lot more care and instructions of the teachers to be fully fully understand the information. And that's when teachers have to be patient to guide those students. Moreover, I think teachers, they have to know where when they have to be strict or when they have to be gentle with each student. For instance, there are many students who are a little rebellious, and they may not listen to the teacher's instructions. And if the teachers are too strict and they require the students to, and they punish the students severely, I think
Ah, don't do that. Just
sometimes,
don't
yeah,
do that.
yeah, it can be really counterproductive.
Oh, that's a nice word to say. Counterproductive. Phản tác dụng. Counterproductive. Very good. So how could it be? How could it backfire? To backfire. Phản tác dụng.
Yeah, I think because the more teachers punish uh, the students in a too severe way, the more resilient, the more hard-hearted the students become. And if this happens too many times, I think they will no longer be afraid of the punishments, and their they will continue their wrongdoings. And I think if teachers try in another way of being much more gentle
Mhm,
and use like soft words to encourage them, I
mhm.
think it can be much more beneficial to some students.
Right. Now, so what do you think? Which is more important, practical skills or academic skills then?
Well, I think it definitely depends each um, on each occupation. Mm, For example, if we do research, we become researchers. I think academic skills are really important because you have to do a lot of work. You have to do a lot of paperwork, and you have to be really qualified, and you have to know a lot of, and you have a lot of knowledge about the subject, so that you can do the uh, work properly. I think this job requires much many academic skills,
Yes.
but on the other hand, practical skills may be really crucial to people who do business because, for example, because in many schools, in many university, uh, they teach a lot about academic skills, about doing business, about starting up. But when they actually go outside the world and face the challenge of doing business, I think
Mm-hmm.
many problems will arise that in schools they may not involve those problems. And with each problem, you have different ways of dealing with them. And I think we have to experience them as much as possible so that you will be much more experienced and know how to cope with those problems in a practical way.
In a
So
what?
in a in a practical way.
In a practical way, I see. I see. Now, which age group is the best at learning new things and why?
Mm, mm, I think uh, whatever age group is, they all have many different cases of people who can learn new things fast or not. Um, for example, with children or uh, the young generation, with children in particular, I think many of them can learn new things much better than adults. Mm, As they are, as the adults, they have too much work on the plate, and sometimes I think they will be too engrossed in their work, and gradually their ability to learn new things will be degraded.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but children, I think they have more time and more energy to learn new things, and I think when they want to learn something, they will really concentrate on just one subject, and they do not have to worry much about other matters, not like adults. But also, uh, it can be true that it can also be true that adults can learn new things better than children, because they already have the because they because when they grow up, they have to be exposed to a lot of different and new things, and in some way they already have the ability to learn new things, and I think sometimes they will be quicker on the uptake than
Mm-hmm.
um, children, because sometimes many children they can be distracted, or they may or yeah, sometimes children can be easily distracted than the adults.
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay, let's just stop here today then. I'm just tired.